My name is Robert Arbogast. I'm 68 years old. I served in the Vietnam War as a wheel mechanic, and I drove a truck with fuel for the helicopters and jets up there.
What were your emotions and how did you feel being over in Vietnam?
I knew I was in the wrong place when the plane landed. The plane, United Airlines, took us over. I got off of the plane in Cam Ranh Bay, and there was a big mountain, and these jets were bombing this mountain. North Vietnamese were there. I bet you my fingerprints are on that plane. I knew I was in the wrong place.
What was your most memorable experience?
They put oil on the roads. The roads were dirt. And on the base, they would put oil, old motor oil, on the roads. And there was a guy driving a front end loader down. Well, it slid off the road, and the loader wound up on him. And by the time I got down there, all I could do was cup the blood from his face so he wouldn't drown. He died. He died. But I tried to keep the blood from his mouth, but it didn't last long. That was one of the memorable moments.
What did you do for fun?
Not much. We drank.
Do you know how many casualties you had, like, out of your friends or anybody?
Yes. They had a they had a place called Sin City. Now you can imagine what that was. Okay. People would go down there and spend the night. Well, the Americans went down there through the day. It was like a town, but it was a big archway, and you went into the left, or you went into the right. All it was little shacks with women in them. Yeah, I never did that either. I never did. No, but they would sneak back on base at night. Americans, and we had claymore mines. Now, if you've ever seen what a claymore mine would do to a body, it's unbelievable. There's not much of the body left.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Can you explain, like, the living situation and, like, what the barracks and everything was like?
for us,
Yeah.
the barracks, it would rain. The barracks got about 3 inches of mud on the floor. We had to sleep with mosquito nets because the mosquitoes were terrible. Now, it would during the monsoon season it would rain. It would rain so hard you couldn't see. And then all of a sudden, 10 minutes later, the sun was out, it dried everything up, and it was dust again. Now, the Vietnamese people, most of them lived in paper houses, cardboard boxes. It was a poor country.
Yeah.
But over there, it's like here, white people and black people. And the black people being mountain yards is what they were. They wore loincloths and bow and arrow, but you didn't mess with them. They would cut your throat in a heartbeat. But it was like a tribe that you would see in Africa. I mean, that's what they were. They were mountain people,
Wow.
and their skin looked like leather. Oh God! Didn't wear clothes, and the kids would always be begging you for something to eat, money or whatever. It was not. I'm glad I went, but it was not a very good experience.
Can you explain how you lost your leg or the bottom half of your leg?
I worked at night. I was in charge of the motor pool at night, and we went to work about 7 o'clock. And when we got there, it wasn't long after that they shot a 126 rocket in on the rocket. They said estimated that the rocket hit about 8 feet from me, and the rocket was filled with shrapnel. It tore that thing up, but I never hit the ground. When I looked down my leg, it was like you took a bucket of blood and just poured on the ground. My clothes was on fire. When I got to the medical unit over there, it's like a field hospital. They had to cut my clothes off of me, and there was about 2 inches of skin holding my leg on. So I got 6 big scars on my back, but they couldn't sew you up. They could clean them, but they can't sew you up there because of the bacteria. So they airlifted me to Japan, and that's where they sew. And I'm only 20 years old, and I'm going through all this. I didn't know what to expect. So I got to Japan. They sewed me up with wire.
Wow.
Wire. Then they airlifted me to,
Was that painful?
huh?
Was that painful?
It wasn't until they took it out. They left it in 3-4 weeks longer than it was supposed to be. But I went to Fort Meade, Kimbrough Army Hospital. I stayed there, oh God, almost a year. And then they put a cast on it and they had a cutout where I had to take the top of the cast off and put this solution on that wound. Well, it never worked. I stayed there for almost a year. I was still in the Army. And on the weekends, they would let me go home. So that was when I had my wife as a girlfriend. She lived in Hamden. Well, I went there and spent the weekends. I couldn't do anything, couldn't walk. Then finally, they put a full leg brace on. And I walked on my hip. I worked. I got a job and I worked with a full leg brace. And then finally, I had to go to Loch Raven VA Hospital, which is no more, it's not there anymore. And it was a big sore on my leg. That was when they discovered that gangrene had set in. And a week later, they took it off. And the rest is history.
Do you remember the year that you ended up being in Vietnam, or the year that you left?
The year I left,
Yeah.
I left in '68. I was over there for 14 months.
Okay.